Hello everybody and welcome to another Oscar prediction video where today we will be taking a look at the category of Best Supporting Actor. So as I've mentioned in some other videos, in a normal Oscar season, we would have already had the Critics' Choice Awards by now. But we don't. Those are coming up tomorrow, and so there's a couple of categories that I'm not so sure about, but I'm gonna have to take something of a blind stab at. And I was debating whether to do Best Supporting Actor or Best Lead Actor today, and ultimately I went with Supporting Actor. Even though Lead Actor also does have a clear frontrunner, I think there's definitely room for there to be an upset based on what happens at tomorrow's award shows. But for Best Supporting Actor, even though I don't know exactly what's going to happen at Critics' Choice and BAFTA, I think I have a pretty good idea of who is winning the Oscar. And I can't be 100% positive, but hopefully I'm not going to be changing this no matter what happens at tomorrow's ceremonies. So, and no matter what happens, at least we can rest easy with the knowledge that Jared Leto was not nominated for House of Gucci. I still can't believe just how close he got to receiving a nomination for a performance that was objectively bad. But luckily he's not here, and so we have some very talented actors to talk about, so let us get started. Fifth most likely to win is J.K. Simmons for Being the Ricardos. So J.K. Simmons is the only actor here to have previously received an Oscar nomination and win. Of course, he was up for Whiplash in 2014, which he won for, a pretty famous and pretty deserving performance. That year, he pretty much steamrolled all of the shows. And he's a really well-respected character actor who's been giving great performances in many different things over the years. And in this film, he gives another great character actor turn, but I have to admit, the nomination itself does feel a little bit weird, because there's not a ton of dimension to the character. He's pretty much just J.K. Simmons playing J.K. Simmons. I'm not that familiar with I Love Lucy, so I don't know the Ethel character that well, but J.K. Simmons seems to pretty much be playing an exaggerated version of himself, and doing it quite well. Nobody can play J.K. Simmons like J.K. Simmons. But I think it's very unlikely that he's going to win, even if the performance was a little bit more of a showcase for him, and even if he had like more emotional, dramatic scenes. I just can't see them going to J.K. Simmons twice instead of rewarding the other actors that they got on. Now, I respect J.K. Simmons as an actor. I don't think he needs to have 2 Oscars unless he gives something that's really, really special. And even the nomination, I like to think of this nomination as just respect for Simmons as an actor over the course of his career. But honestly, I think he was more deserving for a nomination last year for Palm Springs than he was this year. Nothing against the man, he's a very talented actor, but there's nothing terribly special about this performance that I feel needs to be rewarded. And the fact that he's the only person here who's previously been rewarded tells me that he is unlikely to win this year. Fourth most likely to win is Jesse Plemons for The Power of the Dog. So this is Jesse Plemons' first nomination. He is a up-and-coming character actor, I'd say, who in the past couple of years has really put himself out there with performances like Game Night, Judas and the Black Messiah, and I think most notably, I'm thinking of Ending Things, which was his first real leading role that I saw him in. Although I hear he was also great in that Black Mirror episode that I haven't seen. But he's an actor who's proven that he can do a variety of different things, and so I think this nomination is a nice welcome to the club type thing, but let's be real here. The main reason he's here is because they really, really loved The Power of the Dog, and they wanted to reward it in every place that they could. And so the nomination, It's not a bad performance that Jesse Plemons gives in this movie. It's just when you think of the 4 actors that are in this film that are all nominated, Plemons is probably going to be the last one that you think of. I think when people come away from this movie, they're like, oh my god, Cumberbatch. Oh, well, Cody Smith McPhee. Oh, Kristen Dunst. Oh yeah, Jesse Plemons, he was good too. He really just has, and I think the character is meant to be very subdued. He's meant to be living in his brother's shadow and all that, but he really kind of just gets that one moment of "it feels good not to be alone." That's obviously the Oscar clip they're going to play, and after that, like in the second half of the movie, his character kind of disappears from most of the film. And again, I don't want to say that the performance is bad. I think he does what is required of the role. It's just, it's so subdued that, let me put it this way, George is not the character you think of when you think of this movie. You're much more taken by Phil and Peter and Rose than you are by George. And so while Jesse Plemons is certainly doing a lot in this role, I don't know, it's kind of like when John Lithgow was nominated for Terms of Endearment. It's like, okay, they really like the movie, so they'll nominate this to go along with it. But it's not, there's a much more flashy performance in the same category in the same movie that you're going to be drawn to instead of what Jesse Plemons is doing. And so I cannot imagine Plemons actually winning for this. Good on him for getting the nomination, but I don't know who watches this movie and wants to award Plemons over the other performance that I'll talk about. Even if you love the movie, and clearly they do, I just don't see how Plemons is the person you take away from it. Third most likely to win is Kieran Hines for Belfast. So, once again, this is the first nomination for Kieran Hines. And if you've seen some of the other movies that he's done, this is kind of an against type role for him. He typically plays villains or characters that are like domineering and intimidating. And here he's playing this warm, grandfatherly figure. And he nails it. I think he sells it really, really well. And the fact that he has all these scenes opposite Judi Dench, who is about 20 years older than him, but he's playing older than he is and she's playing younger than she is, and the two of them do seem like an old married couple, it does work. And I mentioned in my supporting actress video that Judi Dench actually has more screen time than Kieran Hines, and yet Hines really does make the most of every second he's on screen, so you do walk away from the movie really thinking about him. Even though Jamie Dornan was also very good in the role, and I understand why he was in the conversation for supporting actor for a time, I also understand why Kieran Hines ended up taking the lion's share of awards. With that being said, can he win? Well, early on, it certainly looked like he could win, sort of carrying on with the rest of the movie, but I think that sort of faded over time. I think Hines, while people like this movie, the film did underperform in nominations, not getting the things it was supposed to get, not getting editing, cinematography, Katrina Balfe. It did well for itself, but it's not the Oscar juggernaut that it was positioned to be. And with it recently losing SAG Ensemble, I don't see any real way for it to win Best Picture, and I think the attention on Kieran Hines has faded. He's gotten all the important nominations, but in terms of wins, those have gone to other actors. Those have gone to the top 2 in this category. But I do want to caution people, because he is a pretty clear top 3 in a category where the top 2 could potentially be very, very close. And so there's always the possibility for vote splitting. And if there is a vote splitting between the top 2, Kieran Hines could definitely benefit from it. He is well-liked, and he does a good job in the movie, and he's, again, a character actor who's been around for a while, and I think it's not impossible that he is the big WTF Oscar win of the evening. Of, oh, how did Kieran Hines come from behind to take it? Well, because the top 2 were splitting votes, and everyone likes Kieran Hines. Again, This is definitely possible. But at this time, the smart money is to go with one of the top two. And the real question just becomes, which one of the top two are you picking? And I see arguments for both, but in my personal opinion, the actor who I have second most likely to win is Cody Smith McPhee for The Power of the Dog. So once again, this is Cody Smith McPhee's first nomination, and this performance is a tricky one to analyze because he is playing a character who, by the nature of the story, does not show a lot of emotion. Peter does not raise his voice. He doesn't really get what you would define as an Oscar scene. It's very subdued, it's very, very quiet. And that's not to say that this is a bad performance, not by any stretch of the imagination. This is who the character of Peter is supposed to be, and I think he does exactly what is required of him by the script and by Jane Campion. And I understand why he won the Golden Globe and why he won a lot of critics' awards for this, because the character has a lot of importance, and the camera is always focusing on this character, and the fact that he's not showing a lot of emotion in some ways is subverting expectations because there's moments where you think he should and he doesn't. And so this is really difficult for me because the character does leave an impression. The way that the character is written leaves an impression. But I think a lot of that is due to the script. And obviously, the movie is really, really beloved. And if you see the movie, you're probably going to be looking at him and thinking about the character. But for me, I just can't fully buy him as winning the Oscar. I think it's not like he's doing nothing in this role, but what he's doing is very, very subtle. And this is not the type of thing that the Oscars usually like to award. Also, he's very young. If he won, he would be the second youngest winner in history after Timothy Hutton and Ordinary People in this category, I mean. And so, while I get it, while the performance has received a lot of praise, and while I think he could easily win BAFTA, I personally don't think he's going to win this Oscar. I think while the movie is beloved, I think it's just really, really quiet. And yes, I am remembering now that Mark Rylance won for Bridge of Spies, and maybe that might be the best comparison in terms of quiet performances winning. But in my gut, and I could be wrong, I feel like the person who is number one most likely to win the Oscar is Troy Kotsur for Coda. So Troy Kotsur, once again, this is his first nomination. He is a deaf actor who's been in the industry for some time now and has never really gotten proper recognition until this role. Obviously, there's not a ton of opportunities available for deaf actors, so it's a good thing that he got this role and that he's able to play it as well as he does. It's kind of funny how when this movie came out, a lot of people were assuming that Marlee Matlin, previous Oscar winner, was going to be the person from the movie that got nominated for awards. And I saw a whole bunch of tweets that were like, yeah, we all know Matlin's going to get on, but let's talk about Troy Kotsur, because Troy Kotsur's really good. And I caught wind of this early on, and I don't want to pat myself on the back too much, but I did predict at a certain point, okay, I'm pretty sure Troy Kotsur is going to get nominated and Marlee Matlin is not, because that's the performance that people are talking about. And that's what happened. And I do feel bad for Marlee Matlin, because she's very good in the film, as is Emilia Jones, and even Eugenio Derbez, a very good ensemble, which is why it won Best SAG Ensemble. And that brings me to another point. The movie itself is so beloved, especially coming after that SAG Ensemble win, and it's such a crowd-pleasing film. People are really loving the film, and there's all this talk lately, because it also won Hollywood Critics' Choice Awards. Not Critics' Choice, Hollywood Critics Association. And people are saying, is Coda the secret runner-up to Power of the Dog in Best Picture? And I would caution against that because the movie only has 3 nominations, and you literally have to go back to the 1920s to find a movie that won Best Picture on 3 nominations. And yet, I just feel like because the movie is so beloved, it has to win something. And if it's not winning picture, and it's probably not winning screenplay, although it could, my gut tells me that Troy Kotsur is going to win. That all this love for Coda has to manifest somewhere, and Kotsur makes sense. Kotsur is the one who has the big scene. He has that scene opposite Amelia Jones on the truck. That is a very traditional Oscar clip. That's the thing where years from now you watch the movie and you go, oh, that's why he won. Of course, he's good in the rest of the movie too. I've heard some complaints that he's a little bit too cartoony, but I think he really is memorable. The fact that he makes the character's voice be heard, to think of a different, I'm sure there's a better way of phrasing it, but he really makes the character memorable and stands out and a presence within the room. I think it's funnier that Cody Smith McPhee is giving a more quiet performance than that of Troy Kotsur, who does not speak. But that's just the nature of the game. And Kotsur, to me, is the person who makes sense. I think early on when people were saying, oh, we don't know who the frontrunner is, I was thinking it's going to be Troy Kotsur. I think he just has so much love, and the movie has so much love. Now, Cody Smith McPhee could still win this. And we'll see what Critics' Choice and BAFTA do. But my gut is telling me that Kotsur is going to win Critics' Choice and Smith McPhee is going to win BAFTA. And it's going to be close, but ultimately Kotsur is going to take this. And I wouldn't rule out Kieran Hines as a third horse, dark horse underdog. I think that's a possibility. But as of right now, my gut is telling me that this award is Troy Kotsur's to lose. I think he and the film have a lot of support, and I think he gave a great speech at SAG, and I think people really like the movie. So that is my prediction, and I'm going to try and stick to it. I think Troy Kotsur is winning this Oscar. Thank you very much for tuning in, and be sure to tune in tomorrow where I will be taking a look at the category of Best Documentary Short Film. See you then.